Good afternoon, everyone, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joining us here today. And this, as we all know, it's a very unsettling time for us in our city, in our country. I want to spend a little bit of time with all of you so you'd have the chance to ask any questions you might have from myself, some of what the city is doing on your behalf. Obviously, some of the experts that are here with me today, the boots that are on the ground, the people that are out there working on your behalf each and every single day and doing a great job during this very, very difficult time as we try to navigate through this pandemic. All of us here are in constant communication with the county's Department of Health, which is helping lead the fight and giving us direction as we move forward over the last couple of weeks. Yonkers, as you know, does not have its own health department, so we rely heavily on Westchester's health department for their advice, and we take it and we move and we are operating in a way that people would expect us to operate. We are heeding their advice to the medical experts, and all of you should be doing the same thing at home. We've made sure that we receive the information on resources to help you. We are making decisions on city services, and everything is being updated in real time. So our city's website, this is YonkersNY.gov. Take a look at that. Also, watch us on all of our social media platforms and on Channel 78. Now, 2 weeks into this pandemic, the coronavirus has settled into our community, and it's no surprise that the Yonkers is the largest community in Westchester. We're the fourth largest city, maybe the third largest city in all of New York, and we have now just over 500 cases. And knowing that number will likely grow, we need to be more vigilant now than ever before. To continue, so we'll continue to ask people, our residents, to stay at home to help stop the spread. And the experts are telling us that we need to be smart about this for at least another month. And so I know this has disrupted our everyday lives, but soon I know we will come out stronger than ever. In the meantime, I want you to know that we are doing everything that we can to ensure that our city's services are being provided and available, and that the safety of our city's residents is ensured. I'm joined here today by Dr. Amar Rabadi, who is the chairman of the Mayor's Health Advisory Board. I'm also joined with Mike Masiello, who heads the Office of Emergency Management for the city of Yonkers. Not somebody that you see a lot, but somebody that has a lot of responsibilities. And of course, helping leading the effort here at City Hall is our Deputy Mayor, Jim Kavanaugh. I'd like to I want us to get on to questions and do it kind of quickly, because I know this time will evaporate awfully fast. So what I'd like to do is just ask Dr. Rabadi if he'd like to say a few words.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Health Advisory Board and the hospitals and the state of the hospitals here in Yonkers, we appreciate the citizens doing their part and staying home for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Hopefully that'll bring the plateau that we're talking about with the downward spike of the COVID-19 virus. I was handed questions by the mayor's communication team, and the first question that I have here was, if someone was tested positive for the COVID-19 back in March, are they eligible to donate blood for antibodies? If so, where can you do this? And the answer is yes. They're doing convalescent plasmapheresis testing at Mount Sinai Hospital. You can go on and send an email to COVID serum testing at mountsinai.org, and that's Mount Sinai, M-O-U-N-T, Sinai, S-I-N-A-I.org. Second question I have is, what do I do if a coworker tested positive for COVID-19? That's an answer that changed multiple times in the past month because we're getting more and more information. The most important thing to do is to monitor yourself. If you're developing any of the symptoms of fever, headaches, shortness of breath, and cough, and now GI distress, stomach ailments, you should notify your healthcare provider. If you don't have a healthcare provider, notify the DOH hotline and let them know you're developing symptoms. If you're developing symptoms, you should isolate yourself. Stay home, try to stay away from your family, and contact your healthcare provider for further instructions. The next question I have is, with all the misinformation currently out there, can you please clarify if people with type A blood are more susceptible to catching COVID-19? And there was a study done early in Wuhan of 2,735 patients. Out of those 2,735 patients, 38% of those patients had type A blood. 50% were combined type O and B, and 10% had AB blood. So there was some early information. However, that's not concrete, and further studies are going on now. We'll have some more answers in the next couple of months. Next question is, where can I be tested for COVID-19? Right now, there's 2 sites in Westchester that we know about. One is in New Rochelle, and another one is at Westchester Medical Center. The hospitals do testing only for inpatients, so if you're coming for screening, we do not test for screening. Next question is, what should I do if my doctor does not have tests for COVID-19? Right now, we're all running low on tests. My office is down to just a handful of tests left. We're just telling everyone to assume they're positive if they have the symptoms. And if you're having the symptoms of COVID-19, stay home, continue to isolate yourself, stay in contact with your physicians. All physicians now are working through telemedicine and through virtual medicine. You can speak over the phone daily with your doctors. Again, if you don't have a physician, urgent cares are also doing telemedicine, so is the DOH. Next question I have is, are hospitals accepting patients with non-COVID-19 illnesses? The answer is yes. We are overrun right now, all 3 hospitals, St. Joseph's, St. John's, the Dobbs Ferry campus, and Lawrence. I've been in contact with all 3 hospitals in the past 24 hours. St. John's Hospital is sending the non-corona patients to Dobbs Ferry. We're trying to keep the Yonkers campus open just for the COVID. We have about 120 patients in-house with suspected COVID viruses. St. Joe's today, I spoke to the medical director there. Dr. Neuendorf said they have 75 beds, and he thinks there's about 85% of them that are suspected with COVID. And the final question I have right now is, children, can they contact the COVID and develop mild or no symptoms? What should you do? Most children have strong immune systems. We haven't seen too many children so far, thank God, with severe COVID symptoms. The headaches, the fevers, these are things that you should be monitoring at home with the parent, as a parent, and discussing with their pediatrician. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Doc, if you don't mind, because I know you've said it, but I just think that one of the questions I get very often from people is, I'm feeling symptomatic. My doctor didn't call me. What do I do? I think we just need to clearly tell the residents of our city, when you're feeling symptomatic, what do you do?
We must quarantine, isolate ourselves. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. The DOH has their number, Mr. Mayor. Contact your physician. Some of the early preventive things that we're doing, and we're telling our patients, is take vitamin C. We're recommending 2,000 milligrams daily for 7 days, and then go back down to 1,000 milligram daily after that. Zinc, vitamin D, lots of fruits and vegetables. They're filled with riboflavin, and riboflavin has shown to boost the immune system in the past. So those are great things to do. Continue to hydrate yourself. Even though we were told not to wear masks to prevent it, yesterday there was a study that showed wearing masks does help decrease the spread of coronavirus. So continue to sanitize, wear a mask, wear gloves. If you're feeling ill, Tylenol, acetaminophen, not ibuprofen and aspirin, for the fevers and headaches and the aches, and try to get in contact with some kind of medical provider.
Great, thank you, Doc. I appreciate that so much. I had a couple of questions that have come in. One of them was, many residents on multiple occasions have seen people in our city parks playing close contact sports. Now, our parks are not closed for those who are healthy and those who are practicing social distancing. Our kiddie parks are in fact closed because the city cannot clean those facilities. And they are closed to people who are playing close contact sports. Obviously, that's not keeping consistent with social distancing. So we just ask that anyone who sees this type of activity call the non-emergency police line, which is 377-7900, and just inform them of the activity, and the police will be dispatched to break it up. This question is to me, but I'm going to ask either the doctor or Mike to answer this. Do the hospitals and first responders have a decent amount of inventory of PPE equipment?
I'm constantly getting calls that they are running low. We recently started a campaign, as you know, through your direction and through the police department, of we're taking any type of donations so they can be dropped off 24 hours a day at our warehouse, which is 789 Sawmill River Road. And we're distributing them accordingly. We've already given some stuff to St. Joe's, we've given some stuff to St. John's, and we've even delivered some bleach and things like that to Empress to use them to use to clean their disinfect their ambulances. So I would say they do have enough on hand right now, but you're constantly hearing that they could use more. And if people have things laying around that they'd like to donate, please drop by. And you can also just get in touch with us, and we'll send somebody to pick it up if that helps also.
Now, Doc, it said that, I have a question here, that children can contact COVID-19 and develop mild or no symptoms. I guess the question is, what should they do when coming in contact with
That's not just children, there's a lot of people that are positive asymptomatic, we call them. That's a very dangerous group because they're out and about communicating, and they're not following the social distancing rule. Those are the ones I will say you got to continue to monitor. Stay away from people that are susceptible with underlying medical conditions. It's difficult with children. We all have children. We're constantly hugging them and kissing them. As long as we're sanitizing and washing our hands and continuing to sanitize surface areas, that will help decrease the spread.
Great, thank you. The city is very fortunate to have Jim Kavanaugh as our deputy mayor. Jim Kavanaugh has been quarterbacking most of the activities that have been going on that you don't see or hear about across the city of Yonkers, but are very important, obviously, to the quality of life and to the health and safety of the people of our city. So I'd like to just ask Jim if he'd like to comment. There was one on here that says, does the city have a plan to slow the spread of COVID-19?
Well, yes. We're doing our best, as the mayor said, to enforce social distancing. And so when our police department sees people together more than they should be, they'll ask them to break it up a little bit. One of the things that our Department of Public Works is doing is they're retrofitting an old fire truck to be used as a Clorox a disinfectant dispenser, where they could disinfect certain public areas, whether it be bus stops or park benches, stairs. A helpful thing that we can do. And of course, the other thing that we're doing most importantly is to maintain the level of city services. We know people want our police department to be there when they call, the fire department to be there when they call. They want their refuse picked up. All those services are continuing to be provided, despite the fact that we have a lot of folks calling in sick because they are sick or they have been affected by the coronavirus. But the reassurance we can provide is that those services will continue to be provided at their full level, and that's probably the most important thing we can do.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. One of the questions I have here was that people would like to see a little more of their mayor, and certainly I agree with you on that. And I have, while the TV has been most of the activity we're seeing is coming from the White House or from the governor's office or from the Department of Health. This is a good medium for me to get in touch with the local people here in Yonkers. And so We are in full operation, working every day, monitoring and effecting changes that are being suggested to us. The police department is in full operation. We are changed some of the tours to allow for greater manning, but the police department is full operation, the fire department is full operation. Our EMS services through Empress are in full operation. While we have a number of people who are been affected by the COVID-19, affected, what I mean is either infected or affected by ways of family members or the fact that they have to quarantine themselves. Everyone is operating the way they ought to, and the people of the city of Yonkers should be proud of that. And I want to say thank you to our first responders, our police, our fire. I want to say thank you to Empress. I want to say thank you to the deputy mayors, to our OEM personnel, obviously to Dr. Rabati, to all the people that are out there each and every single day doing the things that they should do to provide for necessary protections. But all that being said, and everyone doing everything they ought to be doing, we have to remember that we have to do the things that we need to do, which is for the next couple of weeks, we have to spend a lot of time at home, and we have to wash our hands, and we have to practice social distancing. These are the things that we need to do if to get ourselves past the next couple of weeks. The next couple of weeks will move slow. We all know that, but we all know that once it goes by, we'll sit there and go, "Wow, that kind of went kind of fast." But we know that we're going to get through this, and obviously we're all together, and we'll do what we need to do. There's going to be an effect, obviously, on the economy, and there's going to be an effect. When there's an effect on the economy, there'll be an effect on our budget. And I know that the governor has already talked about, the cuts that he is going to put forth coming from the state. That's going to have an impact on Yonkers and how we affect services, especially at the Board of Education. And again, I didn't thank the Board of Education. Let me do that too. Say thank you to Dr. Casada, to the trustees and the Board of Education. Dr. Rabati is one of our trustees, for their good work and effort, because our children are learning remotely, and there's a lot happening all at once. We're not just teaching our children, but we're feeding our children, and the CSEA staff and the teachers and all of our team is out there making this all work every day. Without a lot of fanfare. You're not reading about this, you're not hearing about this, because we're focused primarily on the virus. But there's a lot of effort that's happening by your city employees each and every single day. There's a question here: is how will the help small businesses, especially those who've lost their job? And that's pretty significant, especially those who've lost their job. But let's go to the small businesses. Small businesses can visit the smallbusinessadministration.gov, so it's SBA.gov, and get information about the relief for small business owners under the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Emergency Security Act. It's called CARES. This program will provide low-interest loans to small business owners. Unemployment insurance, as you know, New York State Department of Labor has waived the 7-day waiting period for unemployment insurance and is implementing a filing system that spreads out filings over multiple days of the week. So for instructions on how to fill out that, make sure you visit labor.ny or labor.ny.gov. Doc, what do you do if one of your coworkers tests positive for the COVID-19?
Healthcare workers or just an employee from City Hall itself?
Well, there are. I mean, most of our municipal employees, as you know, are home, and at this point, anyone and anybody who is testing positive has just tested positive in the last couple of days. So if you worked with that person, what do you do when you now know that that person has tested
So
positive?
just yesterday, they were mentioning that you don't take off, you monitor. If you develop any symptoms, then you isolate. For healthcare workers, it was a different protocol. We're trying to get healthcare workers back to work sooner. If there's any sign of fevers, you need to have 3 days without a fever before you can return to work.
Okay. Thank you. One of the questions that just came in is, do we need a lockdown? I mean, obviously, that's will never be the mayor of Yonkers' call. A lockdown is something that will either come from the federal government or the state government. They will make these decisions. At this point, there is, we know that the federal government is making a recommendation for the people who live in the New York metropolitan area to restrict travel. And so we're seeing that at this point, but nothing is mandatory. So again, let's see what happens as we move forward. But there's been no call for a lockdown at this point. You know, the homeless population continues to be an issue for us, especially in the big city centers. We are working with our county partners because they are charged with the care of the county's homeless population. We also have homeless outreach officers, which case we are reaching out and trying to see if there's any aid or support that can be provided in order for us to stem any additional COVID-19. And parking meters, while alternate side of the street has been suspended, parking meters have not been suspended. Parking meters are, for the most part, in the business areas, and so they'll be continued to operate. But at some point, though, we will have to suspend alternate side of street parking because that's how we clean our streets. And so at some point, we're going to have to suspend it. But at this point, we're resisting that to give people some relief so that they can find places to park. One area that we'll talk to the superintendent of schools about is potentially allowing people to park in Board of Education parking lots for the next couple of weeks, but that's something we'll bring back to you soon. Now, another question was, will you close schools past April 15th? As you know, that's the governor has made that call along with the Department of Health. We expect that the schools will be closed through the month of April is what we expect. Doctor, you have anything else?
I was just handed 2 questions. One question was, if you have sickle cell disease, is that bad for the virus? When someone has sickle cell disease, that's considered an underlying condition. So therefore, being immunocompromised does occur in patients with sickle cell disease. However, last week there was a study in Africa with the decreased incidence of patients there, and they did mention that because of the treatment of malaria in Africa, that's where the whole thought of the hydroxychloroquinolone treatment came as part of the medications to fight against coronavirus. And they noticed that the patients that were treated for malaria in the past and had sickle cell disease had a lower threshold for the disease. So therefore, that's still under investigation. The second question I received, Mayor, was if you tested positive, how long do the antibodies remain and can you get the infection again? That's a great question, and that's also, just like many things with coronavirus, things that are under investigation. This is what we know so far. The incubation period is anywhere up to 14 to 21 days. Evidence to get reinfected, they're saying now, the experts are saying this could be like the influenza where a different drift or mutation happens every single year. So let's say you had the flu, the influenza virus 2 years ago, and the winter comes along, you can get the flu again. So that might be something that's going to happen with, coincide with the coronavirus. In Italy, they did a interleukin-6 study to see if that would help with antibodies, and that failed. And again, now, I mentioned earlier, we're doing convalescent plasmapheresis to take antibodies to try to use that, to boost the immune system in currently infected patients, and that's all also under investigation right now.
Great, thanks, Doctor. One of the questions we got asked about was about e-learning in our schools. And like I said, our teachers are doing a wonderful job in pushing forth our kids' education, which we know these are very difficult circumstances. And I'd like to ask our deputy mayor, who also was on the was a trustee in the Board of Education, so he has a lot. He knows a lot about this. So to say a few words about e-learning.
So one of the things that the mayor's administration is doing in this difficult time is working very, very closely with the school district. We're on the phone to Dr. Quezada and his team every day, sometimes several times a day. They're working very, very hard. E-learning is a challenge in a district the size of Yonkers. There are over 26,000 students. They've had to scramble really, really quickly to get an e-learning system up and running. And as the mayor said, they're doing a great job. They're continuing to get better and better every day, but there's a tremendous amount going on. One of the challenges that we're already running into, and it isn't a surprise to us, because over 80% of our students are of low or moderate income, there are many students who don't have equipment at home that enable them to e-learn. They don't have computers, they don't have tablets. Many families don't have broadband. So the school district, I know, has recently obtained 150 home computers. They are distributing those. They're looking for more. We are working with the school district to direct parents to go to the Altice website. Altice, which is one of the two cable providers in Yonkers, has a program where you can sign up and you can get 60 days of free internet. So if you are a family that would like internet service, you don't have it because of your financial circumstances, and now your student is home and needs it, you can go to the Altice website. There's a phone number, and you can get it for 60 days. And after that, it's $15 a month. Hopefully the 60 days will take you through the period where the schools are closed. And the school district will continue to try and find equipment, iPads, PCs, to give to students who don't have anything at home. So the system is working. Again, it's a challenge. To the extent parents are home and can spend more time with their children to help in the e-learning, that's really key. It really can't be done without the parents, but we think it's going well as it could be, and we're going to continue to work every day to make it as good as it can be.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kavanaugh. And some of you have asked about the safety of our first responders. That's a very good question. And we have changed and implemented a number of things that will provide for the safety of our first responders. Number one is we have trained our 911 operators. They are asking a series of questions to determine if we're going to the scene of somebody who is suspected of having the virus. If they are, we are attempting not to send our fire department out because we would like to preserve them to fight fires at this point. We also would like to preserve the police department to fight the crime. But while they're available in case of emergency, so if there's a real 911 emergency, they will come. We will attempt to send the Empress medical technicians first, and I think that will go a long way towards providing, for the health and safety of our first responders. There are, in the areas of people with disabilities, especially our seniors, who can't bring groceries to their home, there are, and I ask that especially for our seniors, there are a number of programs that may be available to you. Please take advantage of that. Call 377-6010 and speak with the Office of Aging, and based on your case, you might be able to be provided with a range of services, including meals. And then another question was, has the city of Yonkers made a decision on whether or not to extend the due date for the April 13th for the county tax bills? Now, that's obviously not something that we have the ability to change. That would come from the county, but the county's charter is very, very clear. The county's charter sits there. The Westchester County's constitution is very, very clear that we have to pay the county tax bill, and we have to pay it on the 13th of April. So we will make that payment, and but for anybody who wants to pay their taxes, obviously there's a drop-off box here, and they can also pay them online.
And Mr. Mayor, you may want to mention that if you do want to pay your county taxes online with a credit card, we are not charging the customary 2.5% convenience fee. Usually if you pay online with a credit card, you pay an extra amount for that convenience. So what we're doing to encourage online payment is, if you use a credit card, you'll pay the convenience fee, but you'll get it back on your next tax payment as a credit. So it won't cost you anything to pay by credit card, because we really don't want you coming to City Hall to pay in person. We'd much rather you pay online.
That's a very good point. And many of you like to come here and pay your taxes in person, especially our seniors. You like to pay the taxes in person. You don't like to pay the 2.5%. I get it. But the finance department has devised a way that we could actually send that money back to you in a credit, because we do have state laws that prohibit us from discounting the tax bill. But doing it this way allows us to give you that 2.5% back, and that's I think very, very important.
And of course, you can always pay by check. You can mail a check, and we accept those too.
Yeah, checks are good. One of the questions was, will parks and pools be open this summer? And it's hard to tell at this point. My guess is, Doc, that we'll be open. Hopefully.
Hopefully, with the summer coming along and the increase in temperature, that will help ward off the virus some more. That's the initial thought.
Yeah, but that's, like I said, that's
We're far away from there.
Yeah, we saw a while. And if Deputy Mayor could just talk about the Regents exams. I don't know if we touched on that.
We haven't, and I think that's something that the Board of Education doesn't really have an answer on just yet, because although the schools are closed that we know of until the end of April, I think there's a good likelihood, at least if you talk to the educators, I think there's an expectation that the closure may go beyond the end of April. Can't say yet. So I think that's a question that is still up in the air. Regents exams, and will become clearer as time goes on. And I would encourage people to check the Board of Education website. They have their up-to-date coronavirus information is on their website too. So keep in touch with them by going to their website.
Now, while we don't have a number of employees that are currently infected with the coronavirus, because we know that we have those who are infected, and then we have those who've been affected by it. So, in other words, they have had to quarantine because of a family member or because they've come in close proximity with someone who has it. So when we look at our police department, we have as much as 10% of our police department, that's over 60 officers, that are currently either affected or have been quarantined. And we are looking at only one member of the Yonkers Fire Department at this point has been infected. And so the other areas of the government seem to be operating smoothly, and while we have people who've been, like I said, who have been infected, it's not been enough to cause any, drastic effects in our first responders. Now, maybe you can answer this for me, Doc, because I know that many people have asked this question. What areas are high risk? The Department of Health has not given us hot spots. We don't have that. made available to us. But what we do know that our first responders do know where and who has been affected, and that's not something that we can make public, but maybe we can.
The nursing, off the top of my head right away, one of the things is the nursing homes. Those patients are considered extremely high risk because of their multiple underlying conditions and decreased immune system. So those patients definitely would be considered a hot spot or high risk right now. Also, families of and themselves, first responders, healthcare workers, there's always a risk that we carry every single day when we're approaching patients suspected of coronavirus. So those are two right off the top of my head that I can think of.
Okay. There's a question here, is the state providing additional testing sites similar to New Rochelle? At this point, there are no additional testing sites that are being put in place, but we know that additional testing procedures are being put in place. I know the doctors talked about the 60-minute test that's going to become available. So as time goes by, we'll see greater access to to test, and that will certainly help us out. And then the New York City, where renters are affected, they can get financial help. That's New York City, and that's part of their structure. The Yonkers taxpayers don't have the ability to afford that type of thing. So we do not have a rental assistance program, but we'll certainly work with our state partners and see if they can be helpful on this. Is there anything else you think that we haven't covered? Because I don't want to keep everybody
I just have one question.
with us.
So I thought this is a good question someone asked me because of time. I think this will be my last question. But it's been said that ibuprofen, Advil, etc., are not good and increase the effects of the coronavirus. And the answer right now, there was a study in France that it's true. The ibuprofen families tend to work as an anti-inflammatory, and they decrease the immune system, and that does not help the body. Obviously, when you're ill, you want your immune system to be as high as possible. So using acetaminophen is better than ibuprofen.
If you don't mind, Doctor, tell us what that really means. Only because I have no clue.
Sure.
So, what does that mean?
So
does it mean, do I take Advil? Does it
No.
mean that, do I take,
So the name,
Tylenol? I mean, what, to the person out there?
yeah, the name brands like Advil, Motrin, Aleve, ibuprofen should not be used. Name brands like Tylenol, the pharmaceutical name is acetaminophen. Those medications should be used for aches and fevers.
Okay. Are there anything else you think we should be covering?
Just one last point. The essential functions of City Hall continue. We get a lot of questions from people who need a particular service, and our message is, please don't come to City Hall without calling ahead, because City Hall is, for all intents and purposes, closed to visitors without a previous appointment. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get services that are needed. If, for example, you needed to, let's say you haven't paid a lot of parking tickets and the state has said your registration is going to be suspended, that would be a notice you're getting from Albany, but your choice would be to pay those parking tickets and not have the state suspend your registration. Well, we'll handle that. You call us. We'll make an appointment for you to come in and handle that. If you just walk up to City Hall, we're not prepared. But if you call ahead, we'll do that. If you have an issue with the building department or the engineering department about a permit, please don't just walk in. We're not set up for that. But if you call ahead, we will fix you up with an appointment. We'll do as much as we can over the phone so that when you come to City Hall, the personal contact is very much minimized. So we're able to handle virtually all the needs that people have, but we do say call in advance so that we can do as much as we can in advance, and your time here on personal contact, which is to be avoided, will be minimized. So that's how we're operating. It's working well. The mayor has determined that in this difficult time, the people are still going to be served, and so they are.
Thank you, Jim Cavanaugh. And just remember, www.yonkersny.gov is when you want to look at any one of these departments, engineering, building, tax and water. I mean, I could just go on, the list goes on. If you need a service and you need information or you need a document, much of this stuff is still available, but it's not available, like the deputy mayor said, if you just walk into City Hall. You need to contact the office in order to make that happen. I know the doctor wanted to say a few words.
I just wanted to say to the community, I know Director Mazziello spoke earlier about different materials and uniforms and things at the hospital. We're okay with masks right now. Councilman Rubo and Diaz were able to come and donate some last week, which is very nice. I want to thank them publicly. We need some gowns and headgear, so if there are the unions out there that have any extra type of gowns, we can use those at the hospitals. We are running low with ventilators, so please stay home. Call ahead before you come to the hospital. Don't make us pick and choose whose lives we have to save, and I don't want everyone to panic. You should really use this time at home as a moment of solidarity to come together as a family and as a community extended throughout Yonkers. Let's show the world how strong we are. By staying home and social distancing, we can decrease the spread of this virus. So please, don't look at this as a punishment. Look at it as a notion of how you can help, and that's this message I'm giving. This is how you can help. Stay home, stay healthy, drink plenty of water, eat your fruits and vegetables.
Those are good, strong words from the doctor, and I want to say thank you to the doctor, say thank you to Michael, thank you, Jim Cavanaugh, and to each and every one of you. You know, me being a father of 3, 2 of my college kids are home, and they are e-learning, and my high school son is e-learning, and we are spending time together as we all will do as family members, and this will be an experience that we will all collectively very much remember. There are some tough roads ahead of us, but there are also wonderful moments that we could be spending with your family and spending with each other. Try to focus on that. Try to remember that that there are people around you who love you, and also remember that in this city of 18 square miles of 200,000 people, that there are neighbors who are senior citizens that maybe need you to keep an eye on. Just keep a close eye on and make sure that your neighbors are taken care of. If you see a need and you don't be afraid to make a call. Call the Mayor's Helpline, 377-HELP. Call the police department. If it's an emergency, obviously call 911. If it's not an emergency, call the police non-emergency line. But do look out for each other. This is what we need to do in the next couple of weeks, and just make sure that we're all okay. And like the doctor said, this time will go by, and we will remember this for a long time to come. But in order for us to get through this as healthy as possible, we need to listen to the experts. And the experts are saying, stay home, don't spread the disease. Don't spread the virus, I should say. And with that, I just want to just close out and say thank you. We'll continue to keep everyone informed on our social media platforms, and we'll have these as often as we think that you need to be, is you need to hear. But you know, pay attention to the press conferences that the governor's having, that the Department of Health is happening, and obviously that the president's happening. Be well, and we'll get together again soon.